Steve Green here. You know my buddies Scott Ott and Bill Whittle, and this is your Trifecta grab bag. We've got your questions. All right, Bill, Andrew Breitbart's new book, Righteous Indignation, Excuse Me While I Save the World. It just came out. My copy got delivered to my Kindle last night. It was pretty cool. Anyway, Sarah Palin calls it a manual and a call to action for awakened patriots. So how important is someone like Andrew Breitbart who plays liberals at their own game and wins?
I'm very proud to say that I'm fairly good friends with Andrew Breitbart. We go out for a barbecue kind of thing every now and then when you can get him away from his iPad and have him not showing you the latest video that he put up on Breitbart TV. That takes a little effort. Talking about baseball usually gets him there. So I'm proud to say I'm a friend with the guy who is the only guy on the right, the only guy who's coming back with scalps. I mean, everybody else is out there blowing smoke and making noise, and we three are doing that too. I don't mean to demean it. It's important. It's important to get the message out there. It's important to fight the philosophical fight. It's important to encourage the people on our side and try and keep spirits up. But Andrew Breitbart is the only guy who's coming home with scalps. He single-handedly, along with his co-conspirators, of course, brought down Acorn. Acorn was potentially the largest voter fraud organization in American history. He brought him down. He played the media like a violin. And Andrew is one of a kind. I have never seen anybody on, you know, the conservatives tend to be fairly quiet, reserved people. We have lives. But Andrew Breitbart loves the battle. He loves it. He loves to get out there, and he loves to get in a fight. And I'm really proud to know him, and I really admire the guy.
Yeah, he revels in it. He really does. Scott, Breitbart calls himself a merry prankster. That brings back some unpleasant memories from the 60s. But do people underestimate him at their own peril?
Well, I think they do. And, you know, thanks for bringing in that electric Kool-Aid acid test reference into the middle of this otherwise civil show. I think what I love about Andrew Breitbart, he's utterly fearless. He just doesn't seem to care what anybody thinks about him. And he takes it to the next level. It's not only that he doesn't care what people think of him. If you tweet something that's nasty about Andrew Breitbart, it's going to get retweeted by Andrew Breitbart. I mean, it's unbelievable. Every time I see something on Twitter that's like some really nasty insult about Breitbart, I look at it and it says retweeted by Andrew Breitbart. He doesn't care. He doesn't care what anybody thinks of them. And when we get to the point that we don't care about our reputations, we just care about our country, we just care about our way of life, we just care about our Constitution, then all of this nonsense is going to go away and they will have no power over us.
Steve, I just have to add one little thing.
Bill, were you chomping at the bit? Yeah, you were. Okay, go ahead.
Just a little thing. It's something about Andrew Breitbart that's so remarkably unique to Andrew Breitbart. Somebody once said to me, I would want to get into these comment fights all the time. So, 100 great comments and somebody leaves a negative one, I'd want to, get in there. And the only way they got me out of it was when a friend of mine said, Zeus does not come down from Olympus every time a shepherd shakes his fist at the sky, right? But with Andrew Breitbart, he really does. A little tiny little shepherd guy can be saying, I don't know about that Zeus. And all of a sudden the clouds of thunder, appear and you can say a nobody, a complete unknown can write something nasty about Andrew Breitbart. And he will come down off the mountain and engage this guy. And I said, Andrew, you got better things to do with your time. But that's just the way he's wired. He's a fighter.
Yeah, I'm not going to make any nervous sheep jokes. All right, Bill, your turn again. Glenn Reynolds argues in the Wall Street Journal that states should decide their own drinking age. He says, old enough to fight, old enough to drink. Argument has merit. However, states risk losing federal highway money under the 1984 Federal Uniform Drinking Age Act. Should we lower the drinking age?
Well, we live in a complex society, and the more complex society becomes, the less thinking we have to do. And I mean that in a positive way. We cannot constantly reassess everything when we are bombarded by so much information. So we have to have heuristics. We have to have things that have worked in the past, and we kind of tend to follow those in the future, and they're a pretty good guide. And my heuristic is, if Glenn Reynolds is in favor of it, then I'm for it too. If he's against it, then I'm against it. It saves me a lot of time. He's absolutely right. And the argument, of course, is the insurmountable argument. I don't think you can trump this argument. If you're old enough to go and fight and die for your country, if you're old enough to pick up a rifle and have people trying to take your young life away from you, then you're old enough to drink a beer on a Saturday afternoon without fear of going to jail for it. And if the color me tragically, tragically, tragically upset that state revenues are going to be lowered by this.
Yeah, and you make a great point about heuristics, which is why I'm a libertarian by principle, but a conservative by temperament. It's an important distinction. Scott, Gavin Atkins reminded readers that the UN Environment Program predicted in 2005 there would be 50 million climate refugees last year. Where'd they go? The refugees.
Well, I'm suspecting that they went the same place that the page from the UN website went that talked about the 50 million climate refugees. It seems like it's magically disappeared. But see, unlike the internet, you can't cache 50 million people eternally on Google, you know? So we just don't know where they are. They vanished. They were taken away. They were spirited out by the aliens or something like that. The UN is such a corrupt organization. I mean, from the old ClimateGate emails to this kind of scam where if their predictions, I mean, you know what they're becoming like? They're becoming like some freakish cult that makes predictions about when Jesus is going to come back. And then when he doesn't show up, they go, oh, we did 1907. We didn't mean 1907. We meant 1947. And they just keep changing it.
Oh, yeah. And the thing, I wish there were just like a cute word or phrase for that kind of a memory hole. All right, Bill, the Chinese government wants to outlaw time travel for TV. The latest guidance on television programming from the State Administration of Film and Television discourages plot lines involving time travel and, quote, characters that travel back in time and rewrite history, end quote. They say this goes against Chinese heritage, according to CNN. Bill, when you're global dictator, what plot lines will you discourage?
Well, when I'm global dictator, I'm going to discourage the plot line that made me global dictator, because no one should have that kind of power. The Chinese don't want time travel because they don't want people thinking about what the world might be like without the communist government. It's that simple. All of time travel stories are about the whole point of a time travel story is to show you an alternate future. And usually these alternate futures, somebody goes back in time, messes something up, and then they come back to the present and it's this dystopia, right? They stepped on a butterfly, they got off the trail when they went hunting the T-Rex. And I've often thought that maybe this world we live in is the result of somebody stepping off the trail 100 million years ago and squashing the butterfly. There often seems to me to have been a much better future than the one that we're living in now. But let me just finally say this about China. People talk about how China's going to come and eat our lunch and clean our clock and do all kinds of other physical activities to us in the next century. But they won't. They can't. Because as long as they have a culture and a government that prevents the free flow of ideas, they will never be able to come up with the kind of things that free people can come up with. They just simply can't. They're cutting their own Achilles heel tendons before they even start the race. You cannot have a society with that kind of repression catch us, not in a million years. All you can do, though, is bring America down to that level. And you look carefully at what's going on with that man in the big chair in Washington, and you'll see that he's doing exactly that kind of thing. He wants to turn us into that kind of society. And he's not going to pull it off either.
Yeah, you don't have to travel to the past to ruin the future. Just, ask the White House. Scott, the FBI shut down the 3 largest online poker sites. Are you worried about government overreach? And what did you do this weekend instead of online poker?
I didn't even know there was online poker. I didn't
even know there was an online.
I never heard of it. I don't. No. We out here where I live, we do have the coal-fired internet. It may not be as fast as your broadband connection, but I'm torn on this because I know the devastating effect that gambling has and can have on lots of people's lives. And I've always found it somewhat bizarre and ironic that the government always manages to tap into people's weaknesses as a way of generating revenue. So, here in Pennsylvania, we've got casinos now, and we have gambling tracks and slot machines and all that kind of stuff so that people can go do things that the state is constantly warning you, be careful, that's very dangerous, and then they bring in the revenue from it. I don't like the government, especially the federal government, interfering in people's private lives. However, it seems like there should be some sort of regulation that keeps people from hurting other people.
Yeah, Scott, just so you know, the internet is like a series of log flumes, okay? All right, folks, just one last thing. Drudge has been headlining all day that one reporter somewhere in Texas finally, for the first time ever, got a little aggressive with President Obama, really pushing him for an answer to a simple question. Why are you so unpopular in Texas? And you know what? That is no way to treat the President of the United States. So unpopular in Texas? Really? Do you need to ask? All right, folks, what are your thoughts on Andrew Breitbart? And what do you think about lowering the drinking age? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to leave your topic suggestions and questions for next week. For Scott Ott, Bill Whittle, and the entire crew at PJTV, I'm Steve Green, and thanks for watching.